All right, now let's go ahead and ask some of the limitations part. Like, let's say if I have to showcase that limitations of ChatGPT and BART, so what I can ask them, right? So let's say from the ChatGPT perspective, I can, let's say, ask for a sometime real time update, because I know that there is no real time update which is ChatGPT can help. So it will certainly put the disclaimer that I am not updated with the real time data. So you see that the very first thing which it has come is like, I'm sorry, but I can't provide the real-time updates on the stock market or any of the other live financial data. My knowledge is based on the information available as of September 21, and which is the cutoff time for Chat GPT. And I don't have access to internet to fetch the real-time data or updates, right? So this is what it says, right? So and now the other fact which we can think of from ChatGPT perspective is like, let's try to see whether it remembers the conversation from yesterday itself, right? So let's see if I just tell, like, can you remember our conversation from from yesterday? So it says simply that I don't have the ability to remember individual conversations or interactions from one session to the next. Each session with me is stateless. So these are the some of the limitations which I am saying, listing down at the moment, right? And which means like I don't retain any information from previous sessions for privacy and security reasons. So this is the reason, is also pretty valid, and that's what it is saying. So why I'm pointing out this, like, so these are the factors which you should know, right? So these are the it's not provided as a feature, it's not really limitations, but out of the box it's not actually has been given to the user, and for a specific reason. And if you have a specific question or need assistance with something, please feel free to ask again, right? And this will certainly respond. And this is what it says, like, from one session to the next session it hardly remember anything, right? So, and it makes sense as well. And let's say if you ask something else, let's say, can you understand this sentence? I mean, let's say, and I mean, not sure whether you have come across this, like, can you understand this sentence written in a made up language, right? So, and I can attempt to understand and interpret sentences written in a made up language, but my ability to do so is limited in analyzing the text based on the patterns and structures present in language data I was trained on, right? So now if you like to understand what is made up language, like, or which primarily consists on real human languages, so I mean, let's say if you just ask this, what is made up language, in case if you don't know, right? So in which case what will happen, right? It's a, simply a combination, right? So it made up is language is like, it typically refers to a constructed language. That's what I was saying, combination, right? Often abbreviated as Golang. And a constructed language is a language that has been artificially created rather than having naturally evolved over time, right? And it's meant for certain specific job. People create constructed language for various purposes such as artistic, cultural, or practical reasons, right? Some famous examples are, Esperanto, created in the 19th century, was designed to be an easy to learn and politically, neutral, neutral international auxiliary language. And Keylong and Doc 3, and I mean, these are the things which it has says, right? And it has its own meanings and all, right? So that's what I'm just trying to put together here, right? So these are the facts, like, which you can think from the limitations perspective, right? So whether are you really ready to hit the ceiling, right? So is it really required for that one, for your day-to-day task? I don't think so, because I don't know, like, how many of you, like, you'll be using these made up languages, right? So it's not really, I mean, probably not even 1% in the entire community will be using this. 1% pretty is huge number, but it's not even that, like, and can you remember our conversation from yesterday? This is the one thing, like, being the stateless, right? So I mean, that's what it says, like, being the stateless in nature, it's don't remember, and it has also privacy and security concerns. So this is by design, right? And real time, obviously, since it's trained on the data as of September 2021, so it doesn't make sense to ask any real time update, because it's doesn't sit on the top of that internet itself. However, if you have asked this question to the bard, right, so it could have probably answered this, and which would have made sense as well, right? So, and if you just ask this question like, can you provide me real time stock updates on stock market, so definitely this will answer. This is not the limitation, this is its power from the bard perspective, because it crawls on the web itself, and this is going to certainly list down all the things, like say, yes, I can provide the real time updates on the stock market. Here are the updates, like Nifty, I mean, it's from the Indian stock exchange perspective, right? So Nifty 50 is like this, Sensex, Nifty Bank, Nifty IT, and this is you know as on 18 September 2023, which is today at the time of I am recording, and this is the time precisely which is given also. So this is fine, right? So I mean, that's how Chat GPT and Bard differs. Now from Bard perspective, what could be the limitation? Now let's think on that. Let's say, can you let's ask that, like, how this behave as far as image is concerned. So let's say if I just upload an image here, and let's say a man thinking, and I'll just provide a prompt over here, like, can you generate a poem about a picture I just took, right? So, and now let's see what it says, right? So the fact is, like, I just wanted to see whether it can interpret visual data or not, right? So sorry, I can't help with images of people yet, right? So that's what it's saying, that its bard may not be able to interpret visual data. So you can think, and this is why it has removed the image as well, right? So this is one of the limitations which you can think of at the moment, right? And from the bard perspective, and now let's think about, like, what is the other thing which we can try over here. Now let's say, if it has any access to your personal data, because this is being Google, right? So can you continue the story I was writing in my personal diary? Probably, because of that, like, let's say any of the Google docs which I have been using so far, right? And whether it can connect, or you know you know and respond to that particular perspective. But that's what I you can test that. So these are the some of the factors. And yes, I can try continue the story you were writing in your personal. However, I will need you to provide me the prompt sentence or paragraph that I have been already written. Once I have that, I can use my knowledge and creativity. Here are some tips to continue. Consider setting characters and all, think about, and once you have finished the story, continuation. So actually it has not asked me the details of that, where you are writing on the prompt on your personal diary, right? So, and that is the reason, right? Bard doesn't have that access to personal data unless shared in the conversation, right? So I mean, the fact is, like, let's say it can scroll to your Google data, right? So on which you are writing, let's say it is kept in Google Drive itself on some docs, let's say Google Docs. You have just started, right, writing some kind of draft there, right? So, and you are expecting that to continue from there. So can Google crawl there? So that is what the disclaimer Bard put. Bard does not have access to personal data unless shared in the conversation, right? So that's what it is. And let's say, can you understand highly technical and domain specific query, right? So if I just ask these things, right? So I mean, um, let's see, while Bard is quite knowledgeable and it might struggle with very specific and technical queries, right? So I mean, let's say if you have any, yes, so this is the thing which it will say. Normally it can go ahead and it can answer that one, right? But the thing is, like, let's say the domain which is not exposed to the open source world, or the domain which is not available to the market, wherein it can crawl, right? So and it can give you certain answers for that. So it might struggle into that area, right? So with very specific, and the domain which is limited to have that opened really for that market. So this is the thing, like, from the differentiation perspective, from the limitation perspective between Chat GPT and Bard, right? So that is what you can think of. So Now let's go ahead and see some other topics about the same in the next video itself.